Okay, so this is a follow-up to the last video that I did for this playlist. Immediately after this, I went inside and started to watch just a TV show. I don't know if anyone else watches this. I do from time to time. Called "The Mysteries of the Universe," and it was one on twin star systems and basically binary star systems, and what kind of got me thinking about this playlist in a different through a different lens was when someone was talking about our sun and how when it was younger it was quite violent and would rotate a lot faster, and um, how when it was doing this, a lot of it would uh, it would send out solar flares and magnetic field, or the speed of it rotating would cause magnetic fields and twist and tangle, sending out solar flares and basically high energy radiation, protons that would attack the atmosphere of nearby planets and strip their atmosphere. And I immediately thought of this song in this playlist, Strip My Mind, and trying to make this connection between mind and atmosphere, and other songs or videos that were in this playlist, different synonyms for the mind, and maybe things that reasons why there's some sort of connection between what I talk about and what comes up on these through this process shuffle, and synonyms for the mind or atmosphere, characteristics might be characteristics, influences, or choices, and most importantly perceptions, which is in this playlist. One of the videos in here is perceptions. So you can go through that if you want, but basically that's what got me thinking. Strip my mind, strip my atmosphere, and him maybe representing Mars, or Mars probably, and some other things that the show was talking about, just really got me to think about this entire playlist and this one in a different light, and how you might look at the tarot and the astrological chart, especially, which maybe I can bring up. I'll do it later. And it, just completely seeing it in a way of looking at the solar system and in these terms. I did even start this playlist, and you can see at one, and this is just how I kind of translate things, but how it was spinning 10 times faster than it is now, and reducing down to one. Solar storms taking 500 million years for it to calm down and become stable. Our sun, that is, and how you might look at the fifth house stellium in my chart. It's 500 years. And in terms of the twin star system, some other connections about how the pulsar would, the companion star would bring the pulsar back to life 2 times, and then it would suck all the energy out of it, and like it was never there, the pulsar would. And this is probably really uninteresting for anyone that's not into. Should probably actually just watch that. It will make a lot more sense. But watch that episode. But how the companion star in a binary star system would bring the pulsar star back to life twice, only for the pulsar to suck all the energy out of the companion star, and as though it was never there. And it just made me think of a lot of these themes that we've talked about, which were like, and songs and videos that come up, like Never There, or Phantom, Phantom Planet, Phantom, the Rogue Planet playlist I made a long time ago. And even the song by Sia, Greatest, the one that has Kendrick Lamar's part in it, that talks about falling twice before, and how at the end of that, in different circumstances, one of the stars might be ejected out of the rotation of the two twin stars, and like Sia, by little connections that like make me laugh. And what else? By coincidence, it kind of just brought up Sagittarius as a black hole. Sagittarius A star, which is, of course, 4 million times brighter than our sun, or bigger than our sun, and 4 degrees like my sun. And they were giving us as an example, and how hypervelocity stars start as binary stars and are torn apart. And how when that happens, they compared it to analogy of like a Olympic hammer game, or the one that you spin around and it's that iron ball, and how it's kind of considered, or you could consider it like the cord that connects the two twin stars, and how if you cut the cord, they are separated forever. One stays through the gravitational pull of black hole, and one is shot out into the atmosphere, like I just said, or shot out into space, and becomes a shooting star. And all these things, just going through the playlist, I could kind of see how they might relate in even more, even this, if you put things in different contexts, just different representation, which again was all this whole thing about mimesis, and just how a person might represent a star, or in just easier terms to, or ways of looking at things, and Ant-Man, where was it? Cinnamon Club. Black Marble. That reminded me of the dream that I talked about in a recent video, when I was trying to remember my dream and call a dream that I had had, and how we were on a planet and watching the stars go by us as if we were even stationary, but it might have been like we were moving at a really fast pace, and seemed like, and how at a certain point we went into a cave, and this cave turned into a building inside. And darkness of the cave was like gray or black marble slabs, and that's what immediately thought of this when it started talking about hitching a ride. This episode started talking about hitching a ride, how a planet can hitch a ride with the star when it's shot way out into space and separates from its twin. And it becomes a hypervelocity rogue planet, no longer bound to a star, shot out into space from a star, left behind. The ones that are left behind that are by the black hole. Really, you should just watch the episode because my notes are just like kind of all over the place. But the twin star that's left behind with the black hole, destined to wander space and star forever, after it becomes a rogue planet. So a lot of these, just a lot of the rogue planet playlist, which if you haven't looked at, you should. I don't think any of that really made a cohesive sentence because I'm kind of like trying to piece together what my thoughts were while watching this with my notes and what I remember. And so they also talked about how some binary star systems stars are being driven together. And they're called contact binary. The example they gave was an 11-hour rotation, and they could eventually merge and explode at 800 light years away, and this is going to happen in 5 years. This is one example they gave. And becoming a red nova that are brought together by a distant star. So again, I kind of thought of this video because there's 3 people in it, and when it does explode, it's going to go out in every direction. Something I had written before. Little connections that make me think of things. And it also reminded me of my birth chart again because of the 7th house, there being 3 heart of fortune, and then if you reduce the degrees down, it's 3, and Jupiter in the 7th house, and the cores of the 2 stars, when they're driven together, will become one. Spice Girls 2 become one. As an act of creation, it said, as bright as the North Star. And I just kind of, again, related it to my birth chart, and in the 7th house, the 2 ones being driven together, coming the 17, like the North Star in the 5th house, 17 degrees. And it said it can vaporize oceans. Again, I just thought of this song, and because of dead oceans and Stadium Arcadium, again, just like the translating it to the universe, solar system, all the planets and all the stars, and it sounds very like, but it's too much to think about if you don't think about it in smaller terms. We started talking about rocky planets and how they would need to be 2 rocky planets in order for this to happen. And there are just so many things that have to do with twins that I've talked about. There's 2 came up a bunch of times. So just again to think about things in different contexts, replacement. Being in the spotlight, even like the World card or the Universe card, in tarot, and what was that about? Oh, when it was talking about when the episode was talking about um, giving an example of how these two stars can be torn apart, I thought of the song "Nothing's Gonna Keep Us Apart." I think it's by Jen something or other, and just again going through the tarot and even thinking about the Lovers card and there being something that separates or bringing them together, the two lovers, and all these things being metaphors for Eden, the outer space being a metaphor for Eden, and how is it in is it here? Maybe it was in the maybe it was in the I don't remember a recent shuffle grouping that I did, and basically gave a blueprint for the theory of everything, which I then put into a playlist. I haven't made public yet because I don't want every single playlist to be put into different contexts, and because this is an art exploration, and oftentimes I feel like things are just sort of for talking points sake, on the news or something, things are put into different and I don't want it to be like, this is my theory of everything, and please, and so, and it goes along with the playlist I've already made. So, but I think it was the Givenchy campaign that energies and the walking out of the box that is a certain solar system. It's just like all these things are like in my head. They're so like simple, the connections, but to explain it, it's like explaining a joke, and then by that point, it just seems very not applicable or something. But there's so many things that I had thought of that I was thinking maybe I should just make a playlist, and even mentioned an Oasis. I probably have to I'll try to find the episode. I don't know if it would be online here, but they had mentioned an Oasis, and all these videos just sort of like pop to mind all of a sudden when I'm like hearing different phrases, and it makes so much more sense in the moment than trying to go back and explain it. But again, it's just to say that you can see a lot of different things. You can put these things in different contexts, but they're usually for bigger purposes than just the news. And I don't, want to necessarily be linked to everything that's going on. They took it off what I was going to do for the next one because I just really don't want to be linked to that whole thing. I just think that they should do their jobs and stay out of mine, stay out of my business, and as far as those that are looking into the whole presidential thing, and he can also just stay away because this just really has so many other meanings and so many other reasons for me doing them, and it is to find out these sort of different links and connections that have to do with bigger ideas than the crimes that they commit. I have way more that I have on my mind than wanting to worry about their issues and their bullshit that I just don't give a crap about is, I only care because they are affecting my life. And I'd really appreciate it if they stop, because this is not about them. As much as they try to put things in their own context, like that whole era is over. When I was like trying to help out with certain things, or was forced into it basically, or not even told that they were using it. And so this now at this point is really just purely creative, and only when I have to do I, but I really want these things to focus on avenues like this, and exploring the potential of and reason behind my ability to create these different things, and putting them in contexts that are much more interesting and much more uplifting and positive than what is going on in the government and Congress right now, because I do think it's very unfair that they would expect or want something from me for free, and that they should just do their own jobs, their own work. It has nothing to do with me, and it shouldn't. And I'm just very annoyed at this point that what could be taken to a much larger context, and I could be working for different companies that and go into these things in much more detail, instead of having to worry that it's going to be put into some context that then is exposes a crime or something that I'm then held responsible for. No, I'm not interested in politics to that degree at all. I just want to work in areas that allow this to expand in different ways, and for me to learn and find different outlets for my creativity. And I don't want to be bound or connected to someone that is like putting my life at risk. Like, I just have no interest, and the way that I feel like I've been treated, as far as, doing work for free and being put at risk and made a target and all these things and threats on my life, I'm just like, who the fuck would want to be in politics? So even though I did have a little bit of an interest before, I just am like, never mind. And yeah, there is so many more things that are interesting to look into, that I think are a much better use of my time than wasting years in figuring out crimes and being isolated in the process for people that commit them. Like, I mean, I just am, or about people that commit them. Like, I just am sick of wasting time for people that have already wasted time. And I think that there's so many, like I said, much more interesting ways to spend my time. And yeah, I was going to bring up but you can look at it kind of past the point at this point, but my birth chart, and how everything just sort of, what else came up when I was shuffling cards and watching that episode. Again, it's called Twin Star Systems, and you should just watch it and see how it aligns with this playlist and this one. And but another one that came up when saying that there's a great distance between the sun and or a star and our. Now I'm kind of forgetting exactly their wording, but what came up was, for your information, and if you are going to watch it and try to figure out what I said turns into this, it was the Nine of Pentacles, the Nine of Discs, and the distance on the other side of from where my sun sits. It's kind of opposite, the other side of the astrological circle. And there's just so many connections, weirdly, with how I feel like my astrological chart is just really a map of the solar system, our solar system at least, and should really be taken into consideration as, it would take someone like myself that is interested in all these different areas, that is open minded enough to think that it would, uh, to notice these things and to think that it does have some sort of connection, and to be able to find those to some small degree, that then with in combination with other things like just watching a television show that has to do with more specific areas of study, and to bring all those things together and share them with you so that people in those specific areas that know more about those the terminology and specific things that I just feel like, well, yeah, great, you can do that, and I can look them up if I need to know the specific terminology. Really, because that's just a matter of memorizing facts. So it's interesting to me, and what is, I think, allows for the connection of the bigger picture, and to, I think intelligence really just comes down to being able to connect things and find those connections. And the people that are in specific areas of study and industry can explore those connections more, and then it would take someone like myself to bring those things to light. So in any case, I can't really remember anything else that I was going to talk about, and but yeah, I hope that that made sense to some. And you should watch that episode and follow the connections, because it's really interesting to put these things in different, in that context at least, and see how we might be getting more, might be getting information meant to be looked at on a larger scale also. Um, and just that there's, I don't know, again, it was just, all these things were coming to mind as I was watching the show, and then I took a nap and I just woke up. I'm a little bit tired, but that's not to say that there aren't anything, like, really you should watch it and see how these things connect. So anyways, I hope that was interesting. Just another side note addition to this entire playlist, and how much can be extracted from it, even though this was meant for just one person as a message, and for others to see that there is, that I'm being, truthful and honest in doing these playlists, even if they are private, while I'm doing something by shuffle that, for my own purposes, like, it wouldn't be helpful for me to lie about it or to add different things that I don't think are applicable. Some degree, like I said, if two or more things come up and I know exactly what, and it pops to mind especially, what it's trying to allude to, that a video just might not be in the playlist I'm drawing from, then I add that. But, it's kind of like making a side note or something like that. But that, as much as I can, I try to be straightforward with these things, and keep it as neutral as possible, and not make a ton of different changes and things like that, so that you really can A, trust me, and B, know that this is for experimental purposes, but that I'm not an experiment. This is, we're all working, it's all working together to try to sort out why it's, I don't know, the extent to which this can be helpful and applicable, and yeah, and to not just dismiss it or downgrade it to simple, like, talking points, basically, because there's a lot to be learned, a lot to be, a lot of information to be gained, and so much of that can be done just through putting this into larger context, um, like space exploration and things like that. So, anyways, if that was helpful, bye.